What up, folks? What it do? Welcome to another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast with your boy, Mike Goodwin, the bow-tied comedian. Well, this is a four-part podcast where we are talking about the best advice ever, college admissions, or all things college application process. So the first week, we talked about preparing for college. Second week, last week, we talked about the actual application process. And then this week, we'll talk about a little bit about scholarship interviews and what do you do after you have been accepted, not been accepted, selected the school of your choice. And I'm joined here by the one and only Miss Gabrielle Goodwin.
Hi, everyone.
I don't know what's funny.
That was awkward. My bad. But hi, everyone. Nice to be here again. Great to be with you.
All
And
right. So after the applications have been submitted, the teacher recommendations have been sent, transcripts have been received. What's next?
just wait. And it's a kind of it's not that long, depending on if you're like regular decision or not. Especially for a regular decision, they maybe you know do like January. So February is basically just like a period for you to either wait, be patient for some of these decisions, or you hear back from the honors college or the scholarship that you apply to, things like that. So in my case, February was very busy because I had a lot of scholarship interviews, and I got those notifications like towards the end of January, early February, and I had to prepare for a lot of different interviews. I also had interviews for like Ivy Leagues, Duke. So like admissions interviews, you could get the opportunity to do that as well. So it's you're either waiting a lot if you didn't apply for those scholarships or those honors colleges and things like that, or you may have a really hectic February slash beginning of March where you're preparing for different interviews and things like that.
Yeah, those are typically merit-based scholarships. So merit-based scholarships are the scholarships in which you qualify by virtue of your grade point average and your test scores, or you may have a musical gift or a vocal gift, something where most times schools have either department scholarships or institutional wide scholarships. Athletics is a whole nother component. We didn't really talk about athletics, but if you're an athlete, you need to get into the NCAA clearinghouse. And that basically means that you submit your transcript and test scores to the clearinghouse, and you basically are giving the universities access to your information. And so you have the little, and I worked with a number of athletes when I was in college counseling. So the big deal is the clearinghouse, making sure that you have submitted all your paperwork to the NCAA clearinghouse. Again, I haven't done it in a few years, so I'm not certain with the NIL situations and the different recruiting changes that have happened. I'm not certain of all that takes place, but basically, once you take care of the clearinghouse, that should open the opportunities for you to be able to communicate with coaches. One of the things I do tell prospective athletes, if you're not being recruited or if there's a particular school that you want to kind of get on your radar, you can go to the athletics website, and there typically is either the email address of an assistant coach, because those are probably people that you need to be contacting, not the head coach. You can contact the head coach if you like, but the assistant coaches are probably the first line of communication. There are also questionnaires that you can submit your times, your achievements, maybe some film. The if and that's if you haven't again been recruited. But the best way to athletically be recruited is to be a really good athlete, and a lot of people want to bring you to the campus. So really dominate on the athletic field. And then again, there's Division One, there's junior college, JUCO, which is typically the college before college, and then you also have prep schools. That's maybe like a fifth year of a high school. So I that's a whole nother episode that I will not be getting into because that's not my expertise. But also looking at the different types of scholarship or the different types of applications, and we kind of talked about that before as a rather regular decision, early action, those types of things. Talk a little bit about merit-based scholarship interviews. What type of questions did they ask? How did you prepare? What was the format in many of these types of interviews?
Yeah. So for many of them, I'll say I had.
You can just speak in general. You don't have to say specifically what the
Yeah.
things
So
are.
in general, you'll get like a notification from either like the team for the scholarship or the school in general, and in most cases they'll say you've made it to the next round, or you just congratulations, things like that. Here are the next steps. So follow those very carefully. If there is like a Calendly link or something for you to schedule an interview for, make sure you do that as soon as possible. Sometimes there may be opportunities for you to go to the campus and actually interview in person. I had three, I think, chances to, or two actually, where I interviewed like on the campus with the people. So just read the different information and how I prepared for it. I would say, well, for me, I like writing things down, and I also I'm more of like a visual learner, colors, things like that. So what I did to prepare for each interview is I had like a notebook of all the notes that I had for college, um, visits, any Zoom calls that I may have attended, anything like that. And then I also used it to prepare for these interviews. And what I did was go through my application, my general application. So take Vanderbilt for example. I went through my Vanderbilt application, like the one I submitted on Common App, and the Ingram Scholar essays that I wrote in addition. That was my Ingram Scholar application. So I went through all of those, wrote down the things that I had already talked about in like black ink, and just talked about all the things that they probably already know, the information that they already have. And then also, like I was talking about another episode, use your supplementals as a way to expound on the information that they don't know. Also, use your interviews to expound on the things that the admissions counselors may not know, the people on the scholarship team may not know. So, what I did was if there was anything that was missing, any key stats that I could have mentioned, don't interviews are not a way for you to be like, I did this, because they probably already know. But if there wasn't any mention of it, I put it in like a different color to highlight it and show that that was an important thing so that I could mention it or slide it in any way in my interview. And so that's basically what I did. And then also, I looked at the different websites that they had, the scholarship website, the school website, looked at the questions again because most of the time, especially for my Ingram one, they literally just asked me the same questions that they asked me for the essays. So look back at those questions, look at like the scholarship program. If they have like they have keywords of like their message, their mission, their vision, like we strive for blank, blank, and blank, like service, leadership, whatever. Make sure you know those things so you can kind of tie them into your answers. I know for like Jefferson, it was like leadership, scholarship, and service. And that's all they asked. That's pretty much a lot of what they asked about. So I made sure that I talked about those things so that they knew that I knew what the mission was for the foundation, but then also how they could help or let them know that they could see me as a scholar in that program. So I wrote all of those in like different colors to bring emphasis to them. And then I could also like slide in like different programs, different clubs that you may be on. Like I was talking about in the past episode of like mentioning different clubs and organizations that you may want to be a part of on campus, doing the same things for your interviews as well. I know for like USC, there's a specific thing called Scholars United for their top scholar program. So I mentioned that when they asked me, what could you see yourself doing at USC? So, and that made them more interested in who I was because I knew things about the program that were specific to it. So continue to do your research. Look up different people that may be like the history. People may ask you about this scholarship is about this person and they did this for this university. What inspired you the most, or what inspires you the most about their story, or things like that. So look up different people that may be mentioned in the history of the scholarship program. Um, and then also have at least two questions prepared for your interviewer or interviewers. There's always an opportunity at the end if they ask you if you have any questions for them, and you do not want to be the person that does not have a question. So they could be either centric to, or kind of focused on the topics that y'all were talking about. I know for me, I asked like different questions about the city or like service. What were the service opportunities? Since y'all talk about service being a big part of your scholarship organization, what are some of your favorite scholarship or service projects or opportunities that you had as a student? Um, there was a main question that I asked pretty much every interview, or which was, what athlete from your school like inspires you the most, or do you think contains the spirit of the scholarship program or this university? And that brought a lot of like fun answers because people were able to go back into their years as a student and think about, oh, this person was right here in my campus, they were right there in my class. So think about fun answers or fun questions. It makes you stand out even more if people are smiling and laughing as they are answering your questions and interviewing you. So it's just a way for people to get to know you, and also you can prepare in the way that fits you. Obviously, for me, it was like writing things down, going back over the things. You could type things out, you can, but I would say prepare 2 or 3 days, or write those things at least 2 or 3 days beforehand so that you're fresh on the content and that you know it. There may also be an opportunity or times where you do partner or group interviews. That was my Ingram interviews, but the thing was, it was very convenient because that was my partner was also the person that I was with, rooming with. So we literally just sat down and we had already prepared our answers for the different questions, and we read them, read the key points, and then found the synergies or the similarities between our answers so we could go back and forth and be able to present each other as good candidates for the scholarship as well. So if you know your partner beforehand, connect with them, make sure that you all are on the same page and on the same accord. If not, just try to be as nice as possible because I did have like a group interview where it was random people that I did not know. So be as nice, be work together. I think one of the main things people are looking for with that type of interview is your leadership and how you lead. So just know the way that you lead, know the way that you can work with others, and just display that. Yeah.
Do you think it's important to visit the campus before you decide whether or not you want to go there for college?
I think so. Some of the schools I did apply to, I did not visit, so it's not like you're not obligated to visit. I think it's very nice to see the campus beforehand, so you can see if you really know if that's the place for you, and if you see yourself there, if the environment is suited for you. So I think that would be really important. Visit as many as you can, but obviously I know that there you can't visit, or you can you might not be able to visit every school, and I wasn't. So, and if you're not able to do so, look at the social media, watch YouTube videos. There's so much information and access that you have now through like YouTube and Instagram for you to watch like days in the lives of students that are at this specific school, and looking at the things that they're doing, the traditions that they have, reading the website. Um, but if you have the opportunity to go visit, definitely harp on that.
One thing I would say is don't wait to sign up for things. I think procrastination, I don't even know if it's procrastination, it's just like once you get notified for a Calendly link or for an interview, like go ahead and do it. Number one, because the best spots are available. And then when you wait, you're going to have the times that no one else wanted. And then sometimes if you wait, you'll get locked out, like Gabrielle did for an enrichment opportunity at one of the schools by just not in that moment taking the opportunity to sign up. So don't take it lightly that you're the only person that they're sending this email to. They're sending this email to a large number of students that are as eager, if not more eager, to take advantage of the opportunities than you are. So don't procrastinate in this process. This is a very brutal process for the people that don't do things in a timely manner.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. Look at your emails and look at your junk emails too. That's where a lot of information goes, especially for like scholarships and outside scholarships. Um, your server may think that the person emailing is somebody that's a spam or something like that. So check your emails constantly as well, not just the ones that you get notifications for, but also like your junk, your spam, your unfocused, whatever it may be on your platform, because you may miss out on those opportunities too. Um, and yeah, just read carefully. If there's a deadline, make sure you. I mean, if you're opening the email, might as well just do it right then and there. Um, do whatever it is so that you can get the best opportunities for yourself.
So deciding where, so you got into 8 places. I really thought that it was between 2 places, maybe 3 places. How did you come to the ultimate decision of Vanderbilt?
So the first thing I talked about is obviously, but the main goal for me was getting a full ride, making sure that it was the lowest cost as possible to attend the school, and so that knocked out four of the eight. Um, which were like I got scholarships from some of those as well, but they obviously didn't cover the cost of the attendance. So that was something that I was between, and that really knocked it down to the four. And then when I went to visit each of them, because I had like a scholarship event or an interview or something like that, so I went to all four of those universities during that time, during like the February March after I had gotten my decisions. So it was nice to be there as a prospective student that had already gotten in, and that was trying, I don't want to say being pursued, but like they were trying to persuade me to come to the school versus me not knowing if I would be there or not. And I just really took everything in, taking notes. Like I used that same notebook that I had for those interviews to write down notes for the visits that I had, or they gave me notebooks and I wrote things down. I think it's really, it's like when you hear something from another school and you like it, make sure you can find it at different schools. And if you can't, then that may knock some schools down off the list. So I think it was really just being there, being in the environment, seeing the people that I would be around for a good amount of time, especially with these scholarship programs. Most of them had programming specific for the scholars, and so you would be around them every week or every month or stuff like that. And so I was like, do I really want to be around these people? This is a place that I could see myself not just at the university, but also within the scholarship program. So that was another thing. So I think when it came to Vanderbilt, that was the first one out of the four that I toured, and or that I visited. Again, that was my second time going. But meeting the people that that would be in my cohort, meeting the other people that were years ahead of me that were still in the scholarship program, and that would be my upperclassmen, meeting the staff, all the different people really put everything into perspective and gave me a community that I was excited to join if I had the opportunity to do so. So that really stuck in the back of my mind. Like the people, it's a smaller group. There's like 7 people per class or per year. So there's smaller people. You get to know people a lot easier. And so it was nice for me to know that I would have such a tight knit group going into a university versus having 100 people in your cohort or like 50 people in your cohort with other scholarships that I had in just my year, where there's like 35 people in total for the Ingram program. So that was nice to know. I think the environment that I was in, that Vanderbilt is in, obviously it's in Nashville, so that's a bigger city. I always knew that I wanted to be in kind of a bigger city that was growing, more urban, had a lot of different opportunities, not just for me to explore, eat and do other things, but also that had businesses or that had good opportunities for me to shadow and intern or just connect with a lot of different people. That was something that was appealing to me in Nashville. And then also, there's so many different resources in Vanderbilt through like the Wondery or their business school. So that was something that was also appealing. Just going back to those things that you chose, the schools that you applied for, honestly, like that's what I told myself before. Like I wanted to be in a big city. I wanted to have a place where there was opportunities for me to grow in my learning. I wanted there to have an emphasis on sports, or at least a good sports city. Yes, I know Vanderbilt has not been the best sports wise. They're getting better. We're getting better, but it's also the professional sports leagues and the NFL, the or like the NFL's there. There may be a W team going there. Like there's a lot of different places for sports, NHL, for you to grow. Different opportunities. I can go to concerts pretty much all the time. I probably won't, but there's so many opportunities for you to do so. Um, so it felt like the right decision for me. I think what really set it apart was the community that I would get. That was the main thing, especially with these scholarships. Like you have 4 full rides. That's great. How do you choose? What I did was I really harped on the programming that they would give me. What are the resources that you will give me? Not just the money, but the people or the opportunities, the events, the meetings, the way for me to not only connect with the people that are my peers, but also influential people in the community. So that's how Vanderbilt and Ingram really stuck out to me. Was everyone was already really close. Everyone knows everybody. Um, that was one thing that, like for me, it was really between UVA or Vanderbilt because of those scholarship programs. And one thing that I noticed with Jefferson was there's like 40, 45 people in each year. And there was actually somebody who got Ingram for Vanderbilt and Jefferson for UVA, which was very nice. She was a very nice resource. But I was trying to go around asking different freshmen if they had known her inside the Jefferson community, and they didn't. And so it was kind of weird for me to see like y'all are in this community, but y'all don't know each and every person yet, each and every well everybody, especially in your year. So that was like a signal for me to be like, it's not as close as Vanderbilt would be because it's a smaller cohort. So yeah, the main things for me was community, the environment. Obviously, the academics are great, so I didn't have to worry about that. But I think also it was a representation thing as well for me. And I talked about this as well with like the whole journey. I didn't necessarily see myself going to Vanderbilt because I didn't see myself getting in because I've seen nobody get in from my school. Like I'm the first one to ever do so. So it wasn't like, oh yeah, like I can go to Vanderbilt. Like I applied, but obviously you want to get in, but you don't know because there's been many people that have done amazing things in my school, in my district. I'm the first person in a couple years. So to see them not get in was like, oh, okay. So I think what I really want is obviously this decision is about me as well, but I really wanted to also use it as a way because I talk about representation a lot. I talked about it in my application. I talk about it business wise, like all the things. So I really wanted to also use it as a opportunity to show other people in my school, in my district, that you could be able to go to places that you may not have seen other people go to. So that person that's a junior now, that's becoming a senior, could be like, "Oh, she got in. That gives me hope that I could." So that was also another thing that I looked at and that was appealing to me was just the kind of background of showing up for others and continuing to carry on a Spring Hill legacy, a South Carolina legacy, whatever it may be. But yeah,
The same probably could be said about UVA.
eh, people go to UVA though. Like there's somebody going to UVA now.
Jefferson's.
Jefferson is a different thing, but I mean, in terms of the school in general, it was like yes, I'm the first person to get Jefferson, but I was not the first person to go to UVA. So, like, there's the people that have gone to UVA are like pretty known in the school too. So it's like, yeah. And I just for UVA, it was like it's a state school, so it's like it was a whole bunch of people from Virginia, and I was like, why would I go to somebody else's state school if I could just go to mine? And I didn't really want to, so I was just like, yeah, I'd rather be surrounded by people from South Carolina versus Virginia. And then it was like,
So South Carolina would have beat Virginia out if you didn't choose Vanderbilt.
uh, maybe. Because I mean, like, I don't want to say it's the same programming, but it's pretty close. Um, so yeah, it probably would have been like either or, like potato potato. But I think Vanderbilt was always like in the back of my mind. Like I feel like I knew I was going since like February, but I made the decision in like April. So yeah.
What would you do differently now that you're on the other side of the process?
Um, I would say just do things earlier in time versus like at the last minute. I think that was kind of stressful. I've been preparing essays all over like throughout the process or preparing my applications. I think it was just like I all in my document I just put all the questions in there, but I didn't touch them until like the week they were due. So I think just being more proactive in that sense. But I mean, I don't. I think yeah, just not procrastinating, getting things done early, because that would be nice. But it still worked out. So yeah.
Okay, you heard it here from a prospective college freshman. I think it's a very scary process to consider if college, and then there's also trade school, their military, so there are other options for a very flourishing, thriving, successful life. We're just talking about college because that's the route in which we have endeavored upon. But there's so many other ways to navigate the last year of your senior year of high school that will catapult you into success. So whatever your track or your path may be, I think that as a parent, I think it's just important to be supportive and to have open lines of communication to assuage your fear because ultimately it's your child's life. I think one thing that my wife and I have done pretty well is to not legislate our desires on our children. I think we want to give them the freedom to explore and be who they ultimately want to be. Now, there definitely are boundaries and expectations, but I don't think that I'm like, hey, you're going to play volleyball because you're tall and I think that you'll do great. Like you're going to do something and that will be your choice, but we're not going, I don't have I'm not vicariously trying to craft a WNBA player because I love basketball. Like my daughter loves sports and she never played sports. Like, and so you can be both things. You can enjoy sports together and not necessarily dictate to your children what the path is that they'll take. And that's our approach. There's some folks that's like, hey, you're going to play ball and you're gonna be good at it and you're gonna put in the time. And hopefully the talent and the skill and the ability all works together. But for our way of parenting, I think we've given a lot of freedom for exploration. I think one of the things that we are very intentional about is identifying what is it that you're excited about. Like, what is the thing that you want to do, and then giving you more opportunities to do that thing. And that's something where now I can sit and enjoy the fruits of Gabrielle's labor as a proud parent. And to, people often will talk about Gabrielle and they want to hear like, oh, what's your daughter doing? And you don't talk a lot about those things. And it's like, yeah, because it's kind of expected. So it's not, I don't see us as some exception to the rule. I think we're just folks that work hard, that have faith in God, and we utilize the gifts and abilities that He's given us. So in that regard, I don't think we're special. I don't think that we're some Cosby family that exists. We're just who we are, and we try to be as authentically ourselves in every scenario. So we're not different people at home than we are when we're out in the public. And so I have been very proud and very excited to watch the process, and I'm super hands off in terms of I gave my opinions and I had, the places that there were some places that were on the list because of me. But for the most part, I basically was a trusted advisor and had someone that was a sounding board, someone that was more focused on timelines, deadlines, and those types of things, or even want to hear what led her to this conversation or led her to this point. One of the conversations I remember having with Gabrielle, and especially for those of you that have other children that's coming up, and you're like, hey, we're not gonna be able to pay some of these prices at some of these schools because they're very expensive. We had a conversation about when she got into the places that she was looking at. I told her that South Carolina, like if she didn't have options, South Carolina would be high on her list because it was the honors college, full ride, and probably a no brainer. If all the colleges that she got into were in state or in state comparable, South Carolina would be the number one choice in terms of the option. But I think we were talking about the pros and cons, and a pro on her list or one of her goals is like, I want to go to a big city. So now South Carolina becomes a con because it's not a big city, or it's not the biggest city or it's not the type of city that, she had her choice, she want to be in a different city. So now the conversation is different because she has options. There were options. So what typically would be a no brainer, if I got into the honors college when I was in school, I'm going to the honors college, right? And I was talking to even friends of mine that got into South Carolina, got into Georgia, got into South Carolina, got into Auburn, got into South Carolina, got into other places out of state. But just because there was no scholarship situation, financial considerations, you're going to the University of South Carolina. And that's, yeah, I hate that you're not going to big state U in Florida. You're not going to Florida State. You're going to South Carolina. So that was a conversation that we could have. And she's not penalized for getting into the state school because she has additional options. So I think just those things are very important to communicate. And even I think it alleviates a level of stress about I know the school that everybody would want me to go to is the home state school, but I have a desire to go somewhere else. And it's like, and you can have that desire and it's great. It's fine because you've been afforded that option. Now, if you're not been afforded that option, then that's another conversation to be had. So I think it's important to communicate whatever those boundaries are, whatever those expectations are. If there's a, hey, we'll pay 30,000, but we're not paying 60,000. We're paying 10,000. We're not paying 20,000, right? So like just having clear expectations, I think is very important because then you're able to navigate a lot better versus saying, hey, go do what you want to do. Then the person gets into the place and then you're like, oh, I wasn't going to pay for you to go there. And it's like, well, why did we spend 9 months with this idea that I would have the opportunity to go to this place if I got in or I got half scholarship or I got some scholarship. So I think those conversations are very important. So that's probably a good place to stop.
Mm-hmm.
A good place to stop. And hopefully this has been a very fruitful conversation. I again try not to talk too much because I'm not going to college in August. I will be here with you on the podcast, not in Nashville. Next week, I will have the majority of the conversation because I want to talk about things that I think is important for college freshmen to know as they enter in this new phase of their life, a college student and going to a different state, different school, meeting different people. I think there's a lot of wisdom that can be had going into college. I went to college, first generation college students. My parents didn't go to college. I didn't have a big understanding of what even would take place, what would happen, and I had maybe TV shows like The Different World that I kind of was like, oh, that's what college is like, and maybe a few movies, House Party 2, they went to college, and there was some other college-based movies when I was coming along. So I want to give some perspective from a person that has worked with students and families to go to college. Also a person that loves college. Like I'm a huge college guy. I'm all about the colleges. Like I'm a big fan of institutions and also some fatherly advice from somebody who went to college and did the college stuff and is a fan of colleges and understand how the trajectory of your life can change, but also college is also a place where some bad things happen. Some very challenging experiences take place in college if you're not on your P's and Q's, if you're not making good decisions. So we'll talk about that next week on the podcast. Again, thank you, Gabrielle, for joining us. I'm going to say goodbye to the people.
Me? Oh, okay. Thank you all so much for joining. Stay tuned for next week's episode. Bye.
Bye. No, same bet channel,
Sorry.
same bet place. Could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. We appreciate it. See you next week.